Okay. All right, everybody. Welcome back. Welcome back. I'm going to do a sort of retake or remake of something I done before. So we're going to take the old something down and put a new something. This is going to be titled The Biography of Mr. James Horton. Somewhat of a briefing of the book that I decided to write. I first wrote the biography, and then I transformed the biography into an autobiography and told the whole story of my life. And I thought I would share the biography with you of my life. All right? Excuse me. All right. It says, Autobiography of Mr. James Horton. My name is Mr. James Lamont Horton. I was born October 21st, 1967 at Mount Zion Hospital in San Francisco, California. My mother's name is Arnold Horton, and my father's name is James Arthur Horton. I have an older brother and a younger sister. My brother's name is Joseph Lafayette Horton, and my sister's name is Frederica Monique Horton. My infant years were very hard years for my family and I because they were filled with different forms of abuse, mental as well as physical abuse. Our family home, unlike most family homes, was very much a dysfunctional place to have grown up in. At a very young age, I had problems learning how to do things like being able to recite the alphabet or even being able to sing the alphabet and a song to people like my teacher, mother, or anyone else for that matter, especially one person whom I feared the most, my father. Now that I have grown, I now understand the fear of being beaten by my father for not knowing these things contributed greatly to my inability to learn. My father had problems with his own self-being, and he projected it in an aggressive manner daily. My sister did not go through the physical abuse like my brother and I, but she did receive the mental abuse from having to watch and listen. This was a time when my sister was very young, and she was like a sponge soaking up everything around her. She constantly took notice to everything that was going on. Right? My mother's share of the abuse was the hardest to endure. Physical and mental abuse that went on night and day. My mother to this day has proven to me how much of a woman she is, because when the time came, she made a conscious decision to leave my father and to get herself and her 3 children out of the situation. My father was not only an abuser to his family, he was also an abuser to himself. He was a heroin addict. Around the age of 7 years old, I can recall walking into the bathroom, seeing my father lying unconscious with a syringe in his arm. Very deep for me, guys, very deep. As time went on, I began to hear rumors in the neighborhood that my father had a drug problem, but at that time I didn't care what kind of a problem he may have had. I only wanted the rest of my family to be safe and have a life, any kind of life away from this one. In the year of 1979, my mother met a man by the name of Marvin who ran his own roofing company and was willing to help us in any way he could. During that same year, he moved us to Oakland, and I must say it felt good to finally feel free. Marvin was truly a helper that my family and I would never forget. He was a real man, one of few that I have encountered. But before I continue with my story, I would like to say that I'm very grateful for the number one helper and protector who has always loved me, my God. At the age of 15, I began to let my guards down and allow myself to be influenced by my peers. I believe I was looking for acceptance from the people in my surrounding area. I remember the first time a friend in the group I was hanging out with asked me to smoke some weed with him, and I did, just for the sake of fitting in. I could not, at that time, allow anything to interfere with the statue that I had now built myself up to be. Joining the gang, going to other neighborhoods to fight other youth was another pastime that I also regret. The majority of the time, we join in these types of behavior for no reason at all except to be one of the guys. We felt we had to prove our strength by fighting in numbers. At the age of 16, I sold drugs. I knew my mother would be very upset with me, so I hid this part of my life from her and the rest of my family. I remember when I bought my first car and how I would hide the car around the corner so my family wouldn't see it. I would also hide the clothes that I bought. And before going to school, I would change clothes in the car. The influence I allowed the group to have on me began to escalate. It escalated into my first use of the drug called cocaine, the same drug I had been selling. Cocaine gave me a more intense high than the weed that I had been smoking. It had a different effect on my behavior. I could feel myself changing. I began to feel that my life was in danger and that I needed a change, and not just from using and selling drugs, but also from those influences who I call my friends. I remember telling my mother that I was messing up and having problems and that I needed to get out of Oakland. She never asked me to tell her what was going on. She was just ready to help me in whatever way she could. So she called her father, my maternal grandfather, and arranged for me to move to Henderson, Texas. My trip to Texas was truly an ultimate experience for me. The dynamics that were going on in the city of Oakland were totally different to the life I would now live in Texas. My grandfather lived on a farm which was located in a wooded area. Instead of bathrooms, there was an outhouse. There were also hogs, chickens, and possums, which were our daily meals. I can recall going into the kitchen, making myself something to eat. I thought I was eating a piece of chicken and later became physically ill when I found out I was eating squirrel meat. But aside from the few things that I viewed as abnormal, the experience that I shared with my grandfather are forever embedded within my memory and are irreplaceable. I learned a lot from my grandfather, and for that I am truly grateful. After 6 months in Texas with my grandfather and the chickens and the hogs, I was ready to go back home to Oakland, California to my loving family. When I returned home, things were not going well for my family. They were having a lot of financial problems. These problems caused my mother to be forced into filing for bankruptcy and barely having any money to buy food. I remember talking to my mother and telling her not to worry and that I was going to get us out of this problem that we were in, but that I'm going to have to earn some money in a legal way. I returned to the fastest way I knew how to make money. Selling drugs. So I was able to get us back on track and even able to become pretty tactful at selling drugs. I'm referring to it as tactful because success would be an insult to the word. Success has nothing to do with selling drugs. Being tactful comes into play when you do not get caught. At the age of 24, I made a decision to try a new drug. Heroin will become my drug of choice, my new drug of choice. Upon my introduction to this drug, it was a fad to snort it through the nose. I was told that the drug was an aphrodisiac and that it would make me more of a man and that I would gain high points with the ladies. I soon became addicted to this drug and began to use it as I woke up and before I would go to sleep at night. I could not get through a single day without it. It was just that powerful. I would also sometimes snort cocaine with the heroin. This was called speedballing. I forgot to mention that I was diagnosed with being an insulin-dependent diabetic in the year of 1985 at the age of 17 years old. I started to get very sick as I continued to use the drug. The use of the drug became more important than taking care of my diabetes. I would go days without taking my medicine due to the fact that I was only concerned with getting high. At this time in my life, I began to change mentally as well as physically. I did not see it, but everyone around me did. My mood would change. I became prone to going in and out of jail. Violations of probation and possessions of drugs was my causes of incarceration. I was in and out of courtrooms on several occasions. I later became a known visitor. In the year of 1993, I was arrested for possessing a $10 bag of heroin. This arrest ultimately changed the course of my life. I was brought to court to be sentenced by a judge by the name of Jenkins. A man who I didn't know at the time would leave his imprint on my life. He was like no other judge that I have ever encountered. He had compassion and was there to do more than just a job. He eventually introduced me to a program within the walls of the Santa Rita Jail, the Deuce program. This was my first grasp at recovery. I completed the program and was released from jail and continued my recovery. As a condition of my probation, I was ordered to show up to court every 60 days for a progress report. Judge Jenkins expressed publicly to the entire courtroom his satisfaction with my progress. Eventually, my good standing would come to an end. I began to slip and use drugs again. Earlier in my story, I expressed that I was a diabetic and how it affected my health when I used drugs. During my addiction, I became a patient at Holland Hospital of Oakland on several occasions. In fact, several does not compare. Tried numerous occasions. On one of these occasions, I saw a black man of medium height walking down the hall towards my room. It was the Honorable Judge Jenkins coming to see me. I must say he was someone who cared enough and believed in me. In the year of 1999, I was arrested for a first-degree burglary and facing 4 to 6 years in prison. I was incarcerated for 11 months. I can recall writing to my mother apologizing for all the hurt I had brought upon her, my family, and myself. At this time, I was ready to get my life back. Excuse me. I eventually got into a program and it laid the path at that time. I wrote this, many years back, to my successfully accomplished 2 years and 9 months of cleanliness and recovery. I am now attending Merritt College only. Excuse me. Earning my associate's degree in substance abuse counseling and looking forward to pursuing a bachelor's degree and eventually a master's degree in psychology. I'm now enjoying my life with his new offering, looking forward to getting my education and dealing with my clients that I serve at the Allen Temple Social Service Ministry, where I'm a substance abuse / anger management, domestic violence facilitator and counselor. Thank you.
Oh, really?